Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ladies, gentlemen, gamers, and fellow anime movie enjoyers, welcome back. So, I saw the Jujutsu Kaisen movie. Jujutsu Kaisen, I believe, Zero. At long last, finally. So, to kind of give a little bit of a backdrop of what I did and why I did it before we get into discussing the movie here, I have watched JJK very long ago, season one. When it came out, a lot of my friends came to me and said, "Wow, this is really good. This is really cool. You're going to like it." And lo and behold, I did. I don't believe, as far as I can remember, that I made any official review of season one. Excuse me, although my memory fails me at the moment. But essentially, I really, really liked it, much as everyone said. And then after season one, unfortunately, I ended up getting a job. And then after the job, I wasn't really able to do anything with my time because I had not only no time, but also no money. Which is weird because when you work, you're only supposed to lose one of those. But either way, afterward, after my year plus long stint of subjugation, I eventually stopped working. And here we are now. And since then, I've been playing catch up on all the things I want to and need to and have to get to as a fellow anime enjoyer. And finally, at long last, I arrived at the JJK Zero movie. Now, I pretty much know next to nothing about the movie and season two. And the reason I mention that is because it does have some significance here. So, obviously these things have been out for a while, more season two than anything, more the movie than anything, because season two released after the movie. But I was actually told, depending on what's on it, that I should actually watch the first, I believe, 5 episodes of season two before I watch the movie because of potential spoilers. And golly gee willikers, am I glad I did that. Now, the first 5 episodes of season two are actually even before the movie. So, in chronological order, it's season two, the first 5 episodes, then the movie, which is 10 years after that, and then season one, which is a year after the movie. So, pretty interesting timings here and there. But let's just say, if I were to watch the movie beforehand when it actually released before seeing anything of season two, before season two was even out, it would kind of, maybe not spoil, but it would raise some eyebrows at some very, very big things that do end up happening. But either way, I watched season two first and then I watched the movie. But we're mostly here to talk about the movie, although I would recommend highly for people who haven't watched the movie to watch the first 5 episodes of JJK season two because it really, really does save you for some things that, at the very least, might raise some eyebrows. Like, wait, I saw this, but now in the movie there's this. Excuse me, or sorry, in season two now there's this. It's like it kind of could potentially lead to spoilers or at the very least questions. But either way, how was the movie? And as always, I'm going to be talking about some light spoilers here. The movie was honestly pretty fucking good. Now, in terms of animation, because that's the first thing I was really looking out for, because all of this hullabaloo with Mappa with season two was basically centered around Mappa are basically chained slaves to their desks animating it. And the whole thing was weird about season two because you ideally, as a worker, want to work at a prestigious studio like Mappa. Mappa is well known, Mappa does great things, allegedly. Not to their employees, obviously, but they produce great work, and working there would kind of be a good thing on your resume, or however they do at Japan. But instead, it's kind of the opposite, where if you're working there, it's almost like you're signing away your soul to hell. And this is where, kind of in the movie and in season two, there are, I would say, little dips in animation. And I'm not that far into season two yet, but I saw it in the movie, I saw it in season two, and obviously season two came after. And in season two, it's a little bit more apparent here and there where the edges are a little rough. But overall, the animation was something that I definitely looked out for. And I will say that obviously JJK Zero looks movie quality. It obviously released in films. Now, a big thing that I was told by my friends was that it was a cash grab, and I don't really agree with this. At least from initially seeing it just now. I saw it yesterday, so I'm fresh off the watch from it. But I don't really agree that it was a cash grab. Although it was nice. It did provide a lot of other stuff, But realistically, it provides something that, as far as I know right now, this could be different when I finish season 2, has no real relevance as of yet. But either way, this is where the animation, I honestly think, so far from watching season 2, is pretty comparable to the movie. I'm gonna be real. Now, again, maybe it gets worse later on, and I do think it does in season 2, but the animation for the movie was pretty fucking good. But I somehow, at some points, do think that the animation in season 2 is somehow a little bit better at certain times. But either way, the movie looks visually pretty fucking good. The movie doesn't really degrade past a certain point, and that's all well and dandy. Now, here's for the story. So, obviously, like I said before, the story takes place a year before season 1 starts. And it really follows the character of Yuta. Now, I'll say this, they do a good job, and I rewatched season 1 before all of this stuff. I actually went back and I rewatched it all, and I'm glad I did. Because there's a lot of stuff that they put in there that I personally forgot about that actually is very important. There's one thing that the author Gigi does well, and that's that Gigi puts a lot of like hints and potential like, I don't want to say callbacks. I want to say like call forwards to what's gonna happen later on, because I'm seeing a lot of the fruited culmination now happen where he basically introduces stuff really early on, but he does it so quick where it's like, oh, you wouldn't really think anything of it until you actually see it in full force. And for a couple of stuff that actually does end up happening in the movie from season 1. Season 1, they kind of touch on Yuta a little bit, but one of the things I was told also by my friends is that Yuta was supposed to be the main character. Now, I know there's a lot of hate out there for Yuji. Obviously, Yuji is his own little special case. And I'll be honest, after watching season 2, the first 5 episodes, and the movie, I'm gonna have to agree that Yuji is a little bit ass. I'm not gonna lie. Because after watching Yuta basically is just, in my opinion, a better character than Yuji. So obviously, where I'm kind of leaning is that I really like the movie. Now, obviously, there's some stuff I did dislike, but overall, I thought the movie was pretty good. And focusing on the story here with Yuta, which is what it's all centered about, it's really really good. Going back to Yuji after seeing Yuta kind of left me like a little sad. Like, wow, this is just kind of boring because Yuta's actually interesting. Now, the movie obviously does stuff a little quickly, and I even said it too when watching the movie. I'm like, oh wow, things are kind of progressing really quickly, and they go through like certain periods of time. I think the movie at least goes over 3 months of Yuta's journey, but essentially, the premise of the movie is that there's this new kid on the block, Yuta, and I'm really not going to try and spoil a lot, but let's just say Yuta is paired with something, and this pairing, who we'll just, I'll tell you her name. Her name is Rika. Yuta and Rika are basically a nice little bonded pair here, and Rika is very, very fond of Yuta. And this is where the movie did something extremely well. So Yuta's basically trying to figure out how to deal with Rika because Rika is with him as a cursed spirit. And this proves to be very troublesome because Rika is extremely, extremely problematic and extremely strong. So much so, in fact, that Yuta is given one of the highest classifications in the JJK world, literally off rip. Now, one thing that the author Gigi knows how to do is he knows how to blow good, strong main characters, and Yuta is no exception. Now, we do see Yuta's transformation. We do see great character development from Yuta. But I'll be honest, it's really just with Yuta. Like, the whole movie is kind of centered around Yuta. There's other people there that you have seen from season 1. Obviously, Gojo's there. You have some year 2 students that in this movie are year 1, obviously. So you do see a lot of familiar faces in this show, and especially the villain. The villain, like, I never would have expected it to be them. I mean, it's kind of a little obvious after a certain point, especially after season 2, first 5 episodes, of course. It's such a good segue watching that and then seeing the movie. It really just feels like it all connects together really well, which is why I'm recommending people do it that way if they can. But let's just say that the only real change that really happens in the movie, aside from Yuta, is maybe with one other character that's kind of closely related to Yuta in a way. But there's not really much character development aside from Yuta, but that's fine because this movie is Yuta's movie. And thankfully it's not Gojo's. Gojo's has his time to shine, and some other people get their, due diligence in the light too here. But the movie, for the most part, is about Yuta and sort of a little bit centered on some of the characters around him, his fellow students. And, I'll just say them here: Panda, Maki, and Toge. all of which I think are a great cast. They all did magnificent. They all did spectacular, but some more than others, especially Maki. But essentially, Yuta goes through some good character development, and it all makes sense. It all, kind of blends together really well. And what happens, and just showing how, like, strong and how much of a scaling animal Yuta is really, really cool. There's a lot of twists in the movie where I was like, oh shit, like, okay, that makes sense. And again, these are things where, again, in season one, they're mentioned. A lot of what happens in the movie, if you really pay attention and keep your ear to the ground with season one, you'll kind of know about it. And there was especially a person that came in that I was like, oh, I know he's gonna come because I heard them talk about him in season one, and I'm not gonna spoil who, and they kind of didn't do him justice, if I'm being real, because they kind of hyped him up from this big event that happened in season two, the big culmination at the end. And when they actually showed him, they didn't really show him doing anything too crazy. They kind of alluded to it, but it was like they're just kind of leaving it there for interpretation, which is fine. Again, it's Yuta's movie; they're focusing on Yuta. But Yuta was a really, really solid main character. I think he started off well. I think as the movie went on, all the progression, characterization he got really made sense, and just the interactions he had really were good. Now, the movie didn't have too many fights. If I could count them on my hand, I would say there was probably maybe like three if I'm being generous. Two for sure. Three kind of with an asterisk. But overall, the movie is pretty good with in terms of how it does its storytelling versus including combat. Overall, I think it was a really, really solid movie all around. And again, the main thing I like that Gigi or whoever directed the film did is they really gave Yuta a lot of clout. Like one of the first things that happens when other people see Yuta is they realize like, wait, oh my god, this there's something going on with this guy. Like they thought it was a joke. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get like a new student. Oh, there's a new guy on the block. Okay, cool. And then he walks in and they immediately are like, oh my god, what is this? Like, this can't be a student. This might be a test. We might have to kill him. Because that's just how much of a threat he might be potentially. And it's just so cool. Like, they do things, and this is where it's happened in season one, where sometimes you can't trust Gege at all, right? Where in season one, Gege says through Gojo that all of Gojo's students, now obviously Gojo could be wrong, he could just be glazing, sure. But in season one, Gojo says that, oh, all his students can reach his level. The level of the guy who hasn't appeared in generations out of sheer luck. Like, Gojo is the way he is, mostly because of sheer luck, of just things going right at the right time, multiple things kind of culminating with him. And Gojo's like, oh yeah, all my students can reach my level. Where it's like, okay, listen, buddy, maybe one or two, sure, maybe. Yuta being one of them, let's be real. But, Gege likes to blow some people, and sometimes it's unfounded. With Yuta, it's absolutely founded, and I absolutely love that. This movie was more of just a realization of, okay, Yuta's figuring out what he's doing, and we're truly seeing, like, okay, he is that guy. And it was absolutely lovely. It was a really, really good experience. The fight scenes were pretty good, especially the ones at the end, but overall, there wasn't much bad about the movie. I really, really enjoyed it. Now, here's some of the main issues I had. And these aren't big issues because, again, overall, my enjoyment for the movie was pretty fucking high. But some of my main issues with the movie were this movie, and this isn't really an issue. It's more of like wow, I can't believe they did this sort of thing. It left me with more questions than answers. Even though this was a prequel, this being a prequel to season one, and, most of season two technically, it really made me question things. It made me think, like, wait, based on what happened, and I really can't talk about it without spoiling, but based on what happened, it just makes me raise an eyebrow. Like, how the fuck are things making sense now? Like, there's some major bullshit that happens that I'm just questioning. Like, how is this person here? And for those of you who are very keen, at the very end of the movie, something's gonna happen and it's gonna make you question. And obviously, they have to explain it. They have to either in season two because it doesn't happen in season one, but it makes you question all of season one and season two as well with one character in specific. And I'll basically say who it is. It's the main villain. I'm not gonna say their name, but the main villain of the movie basically makes you question after what happens to him in this movie. How the fuck is season one and season two going on? Again, this is literally something that has to be answered. I'm fully 99% confident this will be answered eventually of like, how is this person still here? But they just don't answer yet, and it made me question all of season one. It made me backtrack and be like, how the fuck does this make sense? This makes no fucking sense. But the movie left me with a lot more questions than answers. And some of the movie, it really doesn't hold your hand, especially with Yuta, where, and again, maybe they could go through this at a later date, but if we're just looking at the movie alone, and by a later date, I mean later in season two, if it is there, if it's not maybe at a later season, whenever that comes out, God knows, right? But there's a lot of information that they kind of just drop on you without really giving an explanation. They give you reveals without really explaining it. And this is where I was a little confused at times, especially with what Yuta was doing, who he is, how he's doing what he's doing, and especially the other people that were there and how they're there and what they're doing. And it's like, I really don't understand some things. And there's another character that is basically on the villain side that eventually just ends up talking casually or like kind of being with the good people. And again, it really just makes me question, when did this happen? This guy was evil, now he's good. How did we get here? They don't really show an in between where, it really makes me question a lot of things. This movie did leave me with, I don't want to say they're plot holes because they could be filled later on, but looking purely at the movie, it's stuff you either gotta like go through a couple hoops to try and figure out and make sense of, or stuff that literally just won't get answered until hopefully later on. So that's probably the only negatives I had. Actually, wait, there was one more. The only other negative I had was the main villain of the movie. And I could kind of get this. This is more of a personal thing. I don't think it's an objective thing. It's very, very personal. It's that the main villain of the movie sometimes has animations where I feel like made them look too different from how I would imagine them or how they normally were from how I remember. Now, I'm really trying to be careful here, but essentially sometimes the facial animations they gave the villain and some other people too kind of didn't make sense with the whole style of how they animated all of the other JJKs and everything. And it kind of made me question like, okay, I know they had a bigger budget for the movie, probably different animators and stuff, maybe even though it said Mappa at the beginning. But it just kind of made me question like, okay, this sometimes made the character look very different from how they normally look. And it was a little jarring. I was like, oh, this does not look like this character. And I was like, it's a little weird. And it obviously fixes itself because they changed facial animations based on what's going on. But sometimes they made these faces where I was just like, this doesn't really look like them. Like, what the hell? It was kind of jarring. But overall, aside from those, I just really enjoyed the movie. It was a great movie. I just came here to say that. Some of my gripes, most of my blowings, most of my glazing. It was a great, great movie. I recommend it to anyone. Obviously, you have to see, I would say, season one of JJK. They do a good job of kind of making it, I guess, kind of accessible to people who haven't seen it, but you should really see season one, first 5 episodes of season two, then the movie, and the viewing experience is amazing. I think it was a great movie. I don't think it's a cash grab. And it was so good, in fact, that when we go back to Yuji in season two after, I'm kind of upset. I'm like, damn, I kind of wish we went back to Yuta, who was supposed to be the main character anyway. And God, is he a good main character? He's actually, in my opinion, a better main character so far than Yuji. Yuji's kind of just like a fucking wet sack, and this guy's like a very strong bull. And it's like, damn, I want to see the bull, not the wet sack. But either way, that's going to be it. If I had to give the movie a rating, I would definitely give it probably, all things considered, it really, really was a good movie. Like, it's a very nice, contained little thing. I don't think it had many negatives, aside from some obvious, I guess, bullshit, but this isn't everything, where it's like, and the level it goes to is not large, but there's another specific scene in the movie where the villain shows up, and they just kind of talk and are casually standing there and doing things they want. And there's other people there that are on the good side that are like, we don't like you. We need to like finish you off. We need to kill you. But they're just allowing him to prance around, do whatever he wants because the fighting hasn't started yet. And it kind of just doesn't make sense. Now, again, I usually know that happens in a lot of anime, but there's different levels to it. It only really happened kind of once, maybe twice, if you're really pushing it. But it really wasn't that bad, as it sometimes is with other mediums. But either way, I'm definitely going to rate this one a pretty solid 9 out of 10 Rikas. I think, and I love Rika, by the way. Oh my god. When Rika comes out, seeing anything strong, again, Gigi knows how to do it. He knows how to glaze, and he knows how to prove the glazing right with the actual person in question. And Rika deserves the glaze. Yuta deserves the glaze. Gojo kind of almost didn't deserve the glaze in this film a little bit, but, it's Yuta's film, so again, it's fine. But anyway, 9 out of 10 Rikas. It was a really good film. I recommend everyone to enjoy it, especially in the order I told you to. And that's about it. Great film. Hope everyone enjoyed, and hope you guys see me at Twitch TV Tecnics channel.